Donald Trump does not have good intelligence. The U.S. intelligence community is absolutely worthless.
Hello, everyone, and welcome into CrushTheStreet.com. I'm Kenneth Amaduri, and I'm joined today with Robert David Steele. He's a man big on states' rights and, human rights, for that matter, and anti-bureaucracy, and I like that about him. He's a world-renowned speaker, author of 8 books, and he does pro bono work for the Chief Enabling Officer of Earth Intelligence Network. We're going to have a conversation today and kind of talk about Donald Trump here and what's going on in the news. But Robert, thanks for coming on the line with me today.
Oh, I love your title, Crush the Street. I want to crush the deep state, and Wall Street is part of the deep state.
Well, I have a question here for you about that. And let's talk about Donald Trump a little bit. Obviously a hot button topic, and especially once he launched his campaign, he shocked many people last week, firing Comey, really draining the swamp, according in many people's opinions. And you're actually going to be meeting next week, or shortly, a couple days, with Roger Stone, Judge Napolitano, and possibly even Eric Trump. And you're going to share your thoughts on, what he's doing. And you wanted to get him to understand what might happen here in the very near future. So I'd love to get your thoughts on this and how you think this meeting will go.
Well, let me first say that Donald Trump was elected accidentally. And he's also a fringe president, just as Barack Obama was. He was elected by 27% of the public. The difference is that Donald Trump was not the deep state's first choice, whereas Barack Obama was. Now, Trump is a good man. He's our legitimate president. He has the potential to be the greatest president in modern history, but not on his present course. He has way too many traitors on his staff, including Reince Priebus, who absolutely does not want to unrig the system, and Herbert McMaster, who co-conspired with John Brennan and John McCain to get Saudi Arabia and Israel to fund the false flag by the White Helmets on the sarin gas attack, the most recent one. And that is so that we would introduce 150,000 U.S. troops into Syria, which is absolutely the worst possible thing we could do. So until Trump connects with the 73% that did not vote for him, and until Trump understands that the Republican Party is going to self-destruct, probably at the same time that we have the major economic crash coming in September, Martin Armstrong has never been wrong, then he is going to be impotent as a president. And that breaks my heart, because I absolutely believe, and I want the progressives to understand, as the people of color now understand. Cynthia McKinney is joining me in co-chairing We the People, Unity for Integrity. The progressives need to understand that our common enemy is the deep state. The enemy of our enemy is our friend. Therefore, Donald Trump is potentially a best friend for the progressives. Bernie Sanders is a fraud. The People's Party is sheepdog 2.0. They, the alt-left, need to combine with the alt-right, the people of color, Latinos, independents, and the small parties, especially the Libertarian and Green Party. And the one person who could make that happen overnight is Donald Trump, if he came out and championed #Unrigged, which is what Cynthia and I have created. So I believe in Donald Trump. I am going to act with or without Donald Trump. But I absolutely want to say that it is my wish that Donald Trump take our hand and return to We the People.
Robert, it really seemed like Donald Trump was on that path, especially when he was campaigning. He did an interview with Alex Jones, and it really made me feel like he understands what's going on. So what sort of course is he on, and what's influencing him?
Well, I really would encourage everyone to read the Trump Revolution series at Amazon, and they can also search for each title and find it free online. So I'm not pimping the books, but I love Kindle. Trump tried to lose. He wasn't actually planning on winning. The fix was in. The bookmakers all had his odds at 20-1 to 200-1. Even Cambridge Analytica, his own service, told him at noon on Election Day that his chances of winning the election were 20%. When Trump won by accident, And there's a lot that goes into this, including the fact that Hillary Clinton was blocked from stealing 13 states using electronic vote tampering, which she used to steal 13 states from Bernie Sanders in the primary. When he realized that he was our legitimately elected president, I think his first and foremost thought was, my God, I'm going to be assassinated. And many of the decisions that he made, including taking on 54 people associated with Zion and Goldman Sachs, including taking on Reince Priebus, who was an absolute utter traitor to everyone, those decisions were made for the right reasons, but it's now time to reverse those decisions. He was seeking to calm the very considerable forces arrayed against him. More recently, I'm not sure whether he has sold out to the deep state or he's playing a long game, but I do believe that he is missing multiple pieces of the solution that would make him the greatest president ever. Among them, all of these are in my memo, which your listeners can find at phibetaiota.net. If they look up Memorandum for the President and Trump speak, they'll also get right to it. Trump needs to drain the swamp. He literally needs a counterintelligence survey, and he needs to get rid of the 500 traitors that are spread across the U.S. government, most of them in the national security agencies, and most of them neoconservatives who have hijacked our government and are serving Israel and Saudi Arabia, not the U.S. people. He needs a Trump channel. His new website is crap. It's just a vanilla website, same-o, and it's not a two-way channel. If he were to use Pol Mol, for example, and alt-government, alter-gov, he would immediately have a two-way channel where he could send out a trumpet and get back 150,000 responses on a single presidential dashboard that he could drill down by demographic and issue and so forth. So I'm high on Pol Mol. He absolutely needs a grand strategy. He needs message discipline. His cabinet officers are out of control. Tillis and Mattis and even Vice President Pence are contradicting our president at every turn. And finally, I think it's absolutely essential that Donald Trump basically burn the intelligence community to the ground and start over. NSA has been spying on and blackmailing politicians for decades. CIA has also been blackmailing politicians, as the Mossad and the Saudis blackmail our politicians. So Trump needs to really create a new national intelligence capability that can deliver the truth to the public. And I think the only way he's going to be able to do all of those things is if he first champions the Election Reform Act of 2017. Now, this Election Reform Act is not something I created. I aggregated the good ideas of thousands of others. And your listeners can look up Election Reform Act of 2017. I'm speaking in New York at the Commonwealth Club on the 18th of May and in Philadelphia at a Methodist church on the 7th of June. And we still have about 30 seats left in New York City. I would love to see the alt-left show up. The leaders from the people of color in New York City are showing up. And I am quite certain that this summer we should be able to occupy the front lawns and home offices of every member of Congress and demand that they sign the Integrity Pledge and pass the Election Reform Act in 2017. If they do that, Donald Trump avoids impeachment, and he then becomes the greatest president ever. So for me, Donald Trump still has enormous potential, but he is in a straitjacket right now. I know how to get him out of that straitjacket, but I can't reach him.
Well, you're going to be meeting with some high-up officials, so that might be a step in the right direction for sure. Now, you talked about a crash here in September, and we know Donald Trump has alluded to this, not specifically a date, but that the economy is in a bubble and that it could burst on his watch. Now, is it possible he understands what the economy is facing? But as a leader, you can't just go out and say it's going to go down the toilet, because it's going to be a self-fulfilling prophecy at that time. There's no giving up when you're a leader and you're the president of the U.S. I mean, we're sitting back and able to criticize, correct?
First off, he doesn't have good intelligence. He's not getting good decision support. He's not talking. All of the people who are telling him how the economy is going are basically Zionist Jews not to be confused with loyal American Jews, or they work for Goldman Sachs, or they work for Israel and Saudi Arabia. Okay, Donald Trump does not have good intelligence. The U.S. intelligence community is absolutely worthless. In fact, I just read the worldwide threat assessment of the U.S. intelligence community by former Senator Daniel R. Coates, and I have to say, while it has some elements that are good, this is a very dishonest document. This worldwide threat assessment does not start with the fact that Israel is the greatest threat to the United States of America because of the manner in which it is corrupting the entire U.S. government. It does not start with the fact that until we nationalize the Federal Reserve, bankers will continue to control and destroy the U.S. economy. I think Donald Trump should be talking to Martin Armstrong publicly. I think they should have a lecture by Martin Armstrong and then a Q&A in which Donald Trump says this is the problem and then solicit solution. I have no problem with burning Wall Street to the ground. And I'm quite confident that Main Street can survive a Wall Street meltdown, provided the President of the United States has made contingency plans. So there are a lot of people Donald Trump is not talking to, and there are too many people filtering the information he gets. And so I'm very, very concerned. We have basically 30 to 60 days to save this country from a meltdown in September.
Let's shift gears here for a second. I'd like to talk to you about North Korea and get your thoughts on that. Many are concerned about the preemptive nuclear threats against the U.S., and even those leaning libertarian, which usually say, hey, we don't want to be involved in any wars, feel like this is a situation where North Korea is being a bully and potentially should be dealt with. Just what are your thoughts on this?
I have a very simple thought. America first. North Korea is not our problem.
Okay, well, what if, and just kind of explore that for people who, are watching the news and they're a potential threat, let's say. So,
they're not a threat to anybody. If they're a threat, they're a threat to the nuclear plants in South Korea. North Korea is not our problem. North Korea is the problem of China, South Korea, Vietnam, and Japan, and we should butt out.
Okay. Well, fair enough. Donald Trump was just on Judge Jeanine Pirro. She did an interview with him, and he's saying he told her, he said, "Hey, I'm the hardest working president there ever was." And I want to get your thoughts. Are there some good things that you see Donald Trump doing, and is it inspiring you in any way, despite all the bad things?
Well, let me say, first off, I'm absolutely in agreement that he's the hardest working president ever. He doesn't drink. And I've resolved that as long as Donald Trump is our president, I'm not going to drink either. I want to be available to him 24/7. And I also believe that Donald Trump has the best of intentions. What he doesn't have is serious heavyweight advisors outside of Steve Bannon. I mean, he ought to have David Stockman as chief of staff. He ought to have me as his intelligence officer, running the Trump Channel and the Open Source Agency in a grand strategy cell. He should dismantle the National Security Agency. Herbert McMaster's a traitor. He should be returned to the Army for court-martial and retirement. So there's a lot of good things about Donald Trump, and I've gone over a list of all of his campaign promises, and right now he's running about 33%. He's fulfilled on a third of the big ones, including not signing the TPP and putting in a Supreme Court justice. He's stalled on a third of them, and it's clear that he's going to renege on a third of them. So he gets a C- from me right now. But he is absolutely the hardest working president we have. He doesn't drink. I would like to think he's incorruptible, but I'm not sure, because all signs recently suggest that he has decided to go along with the deep state. And I hope that's not true, because I am getting thousands of emails from people who are basically saying, for God's sakes, go to the White House and don't leave until Donald Trump comes out and talks to you. Well, it doesn't work that way. Donald Trump has to want to talk to me. But what all of these people are saying is, we love Donald Trump. We now understand that the deep state is our common threat, and we want Donald Trump to lead us in unrigging the system and crushing the deep state. And that's not coming out of Donald Trump. We're not seeing Donald Trump being willing to barnstorm across this country in favor of the Election Reform Act, which would then empower him far beyond the two-party tyranny that is his greatest enemy. The Republican Party is a greater enemy of Donald Trump than the Democratic Party. Until we crush both those parties, and thereby are also able to crush Wall Street, Donald Trump will remain impotent as president.
What are your thoughts on something such as the health care bill? So many people are so disappointed with what we have. Rand Paul called it Obamacare light. And it just seems like there wasn't a real revolution that we voted for in it. It was just almost some sort of a chance to take Obama's name off of it and put a Republican stamp on it, and then that's it. You know, it's almost like an ego thing.
You're absolutely right. And one of my gifts is I'm incapable of telling a lie. I will never lie to the president. And if President Trump ever asked me what I thought about the Healthcare Reform Act and the Income Tax Reform Act, I would say, Mr. President, they are both dishonest to the bone. The Healthcare Act is dishonest to the bone because it doesn't allow negotiation and it doesn't demand that healthcare providers provide a price list. The tax reform is dishonest because it doesn't shift the burden from Main Street to Wall Street. And in my memorandum to the president, my Trump speak version, I point out that he has two people available to him. Carl Denninger, one of the co-founders of the Tea Party and a man that I greatly admire, has itemized what should be in an honest health care, an honest comprehensive health care plan. And it includes taking people who decide to become grotesquely obese off of health care, because those are life choices. If you took away diabetes 2, you would literally balance the federal government budget overnight. So we need to hold people accountable for their health at the same time that we hold the health providers accountable for being honest. On the tax reform bill, he's got Edgar Feige in Wisconsin. Professor Feige has created the automated payment transaction tax that allows you to not only double government revenue by doing transaction taxes on everything, including Wall Street currency and stock transactions, but it allows you to eliminate the Internal Revenue Service. So from where I sit, Donald Trump is a great man with the best of intentions who has an absolutely crap staff and a very weak cabinet.
Robert, I want to just ask you one last question before we say goodbye here. And based on the way things have gone, what would you predict Trump's chances are for winning a second term with things going the way they are?
0.
Wow.
And I'll tell you why.
I'd love to hear it.
John Kasich is not going to win in 2020. John Kasich, among other things, is a closet gay, and America is not ready for a closet gay in the White House. But the real reason Trump will not win a second term is because John Kasich got one thing right in Ohio when he recently said that Ohio is now beyond parties. Dennis Kucinich is going to run for governor in Ohio, and we're trying to get Dennis Kucinich and Jesse Ventura and Ralph Nader and Ross Perot and a whole bunch of other people, including 3 billionaires, John McKay, Steve Ballmer, and Mark Cuban, to join We the People Unity for Integrity. I predict that if Donald Trump does not embrace the election reform movement, We the People Unity for Integrity, then in 2020, we will run a coalition team that includes Cynthia McKinney and John Huntsman and a whole variety of people from across all political parties. And we will basically say to the American public, enough. Obama lied to you. Trump lied to you. It's time we restore integrity to our government. The only way to do that is by electing a coalition cabinet that stands for election reform across the board. Now, I have to emphasize, if Donald Trump takes my hand, I will deliver the country to Donald Trump.
Wow. Well, hashtag...
He will have a 100% chance of being reelected.
Wow. Yeah, well, I just noticed a lot of stalling and things just not getting done and a lot of disappointment. You know, a lot of people who voted for him are feeling let down with the way things are going, and I just don't know if this is going to unravel on him here because, the time is ticking, and for him to start moving. I guess one last question: is this wall going to be built? I know he said it is. He's talking. He told Judge Jeanine, "Hey, it's 100%." Is anyone questioning that? What are your thoughts on that, real quick?
Well, my thoughts on that is that we don't need a wall. Eisenhower took care of the problem by simply enforcing E-Verify. Right now, less than 10% of our businesses and 0% of our landlords are using E-Verify. The greatest problem coming across the border is not Mexicans, it's other than Mexicans, including terrorists from Arabia and elsewhere. Again, part of the problem that Trump has is he has no grand strategy. He has no holistic analytics capability. He has no true cost economics capability. If he did, he would understand that both of our shores and the Canadian border are just as porous as the southern border. You can't build a wall around the entire country. What he should be doing is creating a grand strategy that essentially keeps people happy at home. And he does that in part by closing all of our military bases overseas, by ending U.S. support for NATO and the United Nations, by ending U.S. support for dictators as well as the Zionist powers in Israel. I love Israel. I absolutely support a safe and secure Israel as well as a two-state solution for Palestine. But we have to stop spending American money and American blood on overseas dictators and the genocide against the Palestinian people. That is a source of terrorism. As I've said recently in some Nobel Peace Prize lectures in Norway, if you are bombing the rest of the world, everyone is going to move to your neighborhood because it's the only neighborhood not being bombed. So
yeah,
we can build a virtual wall, but it already exists, and it's called E-Verify.
Yeah, good point there, and it's totally true. If the laws weren't being enforced, and if the magnet necessarily wasn't there to draw people in and for people to take advantage of U.S. opportunities in a way that is for taxpayers, there wouldn't be an issue. All right, Robert, if people want to learn more about you, what you're doing, the events that you're holding, where would they go and what would they find?
Well, they can always just search for Robert David Steele. They'll find me easily. My personal professional website is robertdavidsteele.com. And the blog, which is free with no advertising, is Phi Beta Iota, like Phi Beta Kappa, but Iota for intelligence, phibetaiota.net. And of course, we're looking for donations because I'm trying to get out and travel and meet people and spread this message. And I'm absolutely interested in invitations to speak across the country. And Cynthia McKinney can join us from Bangladesh via Skype until we get enough money to bring her back, and then we'll go on the road together.
And what was that hashtag again that you're trying to spread? Unrigged?
Oh, thank you. There are two hashtags that I think are important. The first one is #Unrigged. I'm about to publish a new Kindle short that will also be free online. It's called Unrigged, Beyond Trump and Sanders. And the other hashtag is #Google Gestapo. Eric Schmidt is dry running a Chinese censorship system in the United States of America. He's doing it for political reasons locally, but he's also doing it because he wants to show the communist Chinese that he can deliver a completely controlled social media ecology to the communist Chinese. I am disgusted by Eric Schmidt, and I think #Google Gestapo is something every single loyal citizen should be thinking about.
All right, sir. Well, hey, thanks for coming on the line with me today and sharing your passion with us. We'll definitely have the links for people who want to visit your work and support you. Again, sir, thanks for coming on the line.
Oh, I appreciate it. Crush the street.
Crush the deep state.
Yes. Bye-bye, Kenneth.